The vintage market is driving the fashion industry right now. People are interested in circular fashion, buying into brands they love, and creating collections full of their favorite pieces. While some people just buy to grow their closet, many people are buying with the intention of selling somewhere down the line. Whether you're a hobbyist or professional, it's important to approach reselling strategically so that you can get the most out of your purchases. Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Christelle, a fashion enthusiast and student who's interested in exploring the ways that fashion and fashion history have shaped our world. Through this channel, I hope to introduce people to things they may not have heard of, share some fashion history, and get a conversation going about the intersections between different forms of media like music and fashion. For the past couple of years, I've taken up the hobby of vintage reselling, mostly focusing on bags. I buy pieces that I think will increase in value, and I try to strategically build my wardrobe so that when I no longer wear something, I can continue the cycle and pass it on to someone new. This video will focus on strategies for vintage reselling. We'll look into the state of the secondhand market and the earning potential within that space. Then I'll share some research and information from sources like the Vestiaire Collective and the Real annual reports, as well as any personal tips and tricks I have that have increased my return. Just a disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm simply relaying what I've learned and what has helped me. If you're interested and use some of the tips, I hope that they can help you too. With that being said, let's get into the video. The first order of business for this video will be a very high-level overview of the luxury secondhand market. According to an article by CNBC, the secondhand luxury market is expected to reach a valuation of $360 billion by 2023, which would be a $170 billion augmentation from its current size. The secondhand market is outperforming the first-hand market with year-over-year growth at 10%. In a joint report by the Boston Consulting Group and online reselling platform Vestiaire Collective, it was found that customers shop secondhand due to three key factors: affordability, variety, and sustainability. BCG surveyed secondhand shoppers and found that 28% of their wardrobes were resale. Of these 28%, shoppers said that secondhand items made up 30% of their clothing and 40% of their handbags. It's not just consumers who are catching on to the lucrative sector. Many brands have decided to cash in on cyclical fashion. Many traditional brands have embraced the secondhand space by doing collaborations with prominent platforms like the Vestiaire and Alexander McQueen or the Vestiaire and Chloe collaborations, or reselling their own pieces on their websites like Ralph Lauren Vintage. Now the question remains, how do I capture some of this growth and meaningfully engage in circular fashion? This requires a combination of knowing where to buy, negotiating, different pricing strategies, and understanding the benefits and drawbacks of different selling platforms. Buying strategically should focus on three pillars: current value, future value, and market price. For example, if you find a pair of dilapidated Roger Vivier shoes, you might be inclined to buy them because of the brand name and the idea that luxury will always sell. But actually, people are highly considerate of the condition and market value of their purchases. If you sell low-quality items for high prices, you are bound to receive pushback. When you buy pieces, make sure they're very high to excellent quality. This will help you determine the current value of the piece and whether it would be a smart decision to buy. Then consider whether this item is currently trending or forecasted to trend. This will help you figure out the future value. If an item is at the peak of the trend cycle, you will most likely sell it for a loss, or at the very most, break even. If you catch a piece in the beginning of the trend cycle and adequately negotiate so that you can buy under market price, you can get returns of over 100% at its peak, depending on how culturally relevant it becomes. Return maximization requires a combination of negotiation when buying and efficient pricing at the selling point. Some examples of times I did this was when I bought the Balenciaga City bag for $400 and the Chloe Paddington for $340, both a year or two before they were trending, and ended up selling them for $750 and $570 respectively. Though the numbers may seem low compared to the jackpot thrift finds on TikTok, I got a 180 and 167% return on my items and sold quality products. Each item was in excellent condition, 100% authentic, and took me months to source at the prices I got them for. When you're buying an item secondhand, always lowball. Don't do crazy low balls like asking to pay $10 for a $700 piece, but always try to get the item under market price. Understand your seller. Is this a vintage reselling account that goes thrifting and sells online to turn a profit? If so, they will be less amenable to your negotiation and you won't get the best price. Is this an older lady looking to clean out her closet? Bingo. She'll probably take you up on a lower offer because she's not looking to make a living off of this transaction. Sometimes it takes a lot of patience to find a truly reasonable seller who you can negotiate a reasonable price with. In my opinion, it is always worth the wait. Sometimes it takes eyeing a piece for months before striking at the perfect moment. Finally, pricing. Pricing is tricky because although you want to make as much money as possible, you also don't want to box out consumers by pricing your item higher than other sellers. The key to this is in the buying phase. If you buy below market price, you will be more open to competitive pricing down the line. The way I do it is by pricing at or around the average of all the listings I see and changing the price depending on the platform. If you have a limited edition or really rare item, it is totally okay to price it higher while highlighting that value add. If you go on a secondhand platform and see items listed for months and months, usually the issue is that the seller's pricing strategy doesn't match the value or demand for the item. A good pricing strategy could have your item flying off the shelves in just a few days. The last thing to consider are the benefits and pitfalls of selling on different platforms. When figuring out where you're going to list your items, you should focus on visibility, selling fees, promotion fees, and the culture of the website. For example, if you're selling on Depop, you will have a better chance of finding audiences who are into trending pieces and are willing to pay high prices for them. Additionally, you will be able to list without selling fees and can choose to boost your product for about 8% of the initial listing price, which is a better margin than platforms like eBay that charge selling fees and often require a higher buy-in for promotions. On the other hand, you would have to do more to prove authenticity to make your product stand out from the counterfeit culture on the app. Without going into each individual platform, it is important to know all of these factors and to understand where your product will perform the best. If you have a tighter timeline, focusing on buying and selling trending items may be your best bet. Trendy pieces perform well on Depop, Vestiaire, Grailed, and eBay, with the main differences between these platforms being fees and authentication methods. For example, experienced buyers are more likely to purchase from Vestiaire because of their warehouse authentication. However, they are also likely to understand the value of a piece and negotiate. If you want to just get rid of things you don't wear with no timeline in mind, casual platforms like Mercari and Poshmark would be perfect for you. If you don't care as much about turning a profit, consignment stores like Beacon's Closet or Buffalo Exchange and platforms like The RealReal could also work. I hope these tips help you to at least start thinking of ways you can participate in circular fashion. I think that's where I'm going to leave it for now. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments. I'm going to leave my references in the bio of this video so that you guys can read the articles and get more in-depth approaches to this topic. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave video suggestions in the comments. Bye!